Hello and welcome to the Final Bell, the official Geelong Cats podcast. It is great to have you with us for another week. We are proudly presented by GMHBA, the official health insurance partner of the Geelong Cats. I am joined by my partner in crime every single week. Meg McDonald is here. Hello, Meg.
Hey, Lingy.
We do love talking footy, though. Here
Yes,
we're going to talk all things Geelong and West Coast. We'll get to some questions later on. We'll look ahead to the Gold Coast Suns game, of course. And we have a special treat too. David Williams, the club psychologist, is going to join us in the second segment. Great opportunity, I think, for us. And certainly for me, because you're living it all.
For a therapy session.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you live it all the time. You see the inner sanctum so often. You're at the coalface of playing and performance right now. I'm a little bit removed from that. I'm looking forward to talking to him about how he helps the journey of individuals, the team, how he ties it all together, and just get sort of what's happening behind the scenes with some of that preparation stuff.
Was that a role that existed in clubs when you were during your time? A designated, this is the club psychologist.
There was definitely always a club psychologist, and I might even lead off to Dave with this question around. Back then, though, the club psychologist was someone you went to see
when you were in deficit, or
and almost you were like the coach. Hey, you might benefit from going to have a chat to this guy.
Because I'm about to give you some harsh feedback.
Very true. So the role was there, but I'm tipping and guessing, and I might be preempting our chat with David, but a very different role within the club. So it'll be a great chat with him. There's something in my notes here which is just devastating. Absolutely devastating.
Everybody.
No Meg's memo.
It would have put you to sleep.
Really?
I think.
Was it
which is no commentary on the game, but I was reclined on the couch, really resenting the WA public holiday when I was like, it's a late game for a Sunday in Geelong, guys.
I couldn't agree more. It was for us back here. Yeah, it was a bloody awful time. Yeah. I didn't let my kids watch it because it's Sunday night before school. It's a school night. Go to bed.
You didn't say just chalk this one up, boy. All good.
No. I said go to bed. They were yelling at me. They weren't happy. They went to bed very disappointed in Dad. But it was a strange time. But the good news is the Cats do get a comfortable win.
Well, they probably would have woken up Monday morning being like, this is what we expected. But I don't know that would have been necessarily reflective of the game. No,
that's a good call because, you just check the margin and my maths isn't great. What's that, 43 points? The Cats win. And 31 shots at goal. Oh, yeah, of course it was. But it certainly wasn't as smooth a sailing as that. As we know, West Coast threw a lot at Geelong, and to their credit, they had a real crack. I don't know about you, Meg, and this might be because of the deep belief that has grown with this team. As much as West Coast were pushing us all the way, I never felt like though we were going to drop this game.
Yeah, and I wondered the same if I was projecting that on the players, but you're watching the game going, they don't look like they think they're ever going to lose this game. And I don't know if we'll get to ask Dave about that one, but there is something, anyone who plays sport knows what that feels like. We're like, we'll be right. We'll always sort of keep them at arm's length. But as a spectator, I started to get worried on that front. But I think they, I saw Graham when he got back, and I think they were pretty assured. But
It is funny because that you could have a different game playing and it gets that close and you think, oh God, we're gonna drop this. But it felt still sort of in control. Mind you, I think did it get back to 5 or 6 points? 6 points?
1 point?
Producer Jakey?
It was 3 points early and then it was 7 points late.
They had that shot at goal to go to 1 point.
Yeah. So I shouldn't sound as confident as what I am right now because it was getting very, very close. And then, of course, we know the last quarter and Jez kicks 4 and has a nice old time. Again, the form of a few key players was really important throughout the game. Bailey Smith getting a lot of accolades, as he should. Yeah. Maxie Holmes really good as well. Jez ends up kicking 5, leading the common medal right now. But I love the fact that Brian Myers ended up with the most coaches' votes from the game, 9 votes. He was superb. 26 touches, superb. I reckon, and 2 goals. And again, we know how creative his ball use is and how important it is.
Yeah, just his level. I mean, in a game where we're on, but we're not being clinical, I would say. Whereas he certainly was, and I think I'm sure we'll speak about Stengel's game as well. But they're not players who have necessarily dominated the way that, say, Jess is leading the Coleman at the moment. But that's the luxury. You have different players pop up on any given week, and Brian he doubled his goal tally for the year in the first quarter. He was clearly on. Yep. And I just love him. I couldn't happen to a nicer guy playing well.
Absolutely. You mentioned Tyson. I sensed him up the ground a bit more, a little bit more freedom. He seemed to relish just that opportunity to roam a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, he is as skillful as anyone, right? So I'm sure he has no worries hitting the inside 50 kick as opposed to being on the end of it, but he was able to do both. And he had his pressure was up there as well. It's the type of win that just becomes important, I think, come the end of the season too, because you accidentally drop a game like that that you should win based on ladder position, and it might hurt you in the run home to finals. But now it's just one that's locked away, and of course, and we will touch on this game a little bit later on in the podcast, obviously setting up a huge one this week against the Gold Coast Suns. So I'd use the word professional performance. Yeah, and we've probably accidentally dropped the ones that we've probably had our turn at that already this year. So you wouldn't want to, sort of do that in Perth. But they moved the ball really well. I felt like they were sort of able to, on occasion, break down our layers of defence, and almost like our press was just slightly off, and you end up having two players go to one, and they went back through. It was almost like our amazing metres gained game through Max and Bailey. We were going forward quick sticks, but then Jinby on Cameron was playing really well. Yeah. So when they managed to turn it over, it then sort of came back through that space equally effectively. It's
a brutal game, isn't it? I thought he played really well too, and he has five kicked on him.
I didn't make this point about key defence, I think, a couple of weeks ago.
It's brutal.
But Jez gave him his flowers at the end of the game. I think he said that he'd done well, and he was in the coaches' votes too. But
yeah, no, you're right. Mitch Duncan, really solid as well. I thought Tom Stewart, after looking a little rusty the first game back, just really solid again. Connor O'Sullivan found a bit of the footy.
Yeah, he did.
So lots and lots of positives come out of it. Not to gloss over it really quickly, but an important win, a professional win. But obviously, as far as tests go, you can't help but look forward to this week's game and to see how the Gold Coast Suns going.
Just quickly on, what's the record for metres gained in a game? Do we know? I think Max was on like 700 in this 10 minutes to the second quarter.
Yeah, I think there's been ones over a K.
Yeah, I knew one, but I didn't know it could go 1.3. All right.
Who was that? A young Patrick Dangerfield?
Oh, yeah, good point.
Producer Jake is saying a young Ed Langdon. Yeah.
Take grass. We love it. Sorry, yes, this week.
Yes. Well, and just on this week, health-wise, out of the game, pretty good. Is there anyone I'm missing who no one got hurt?
It would have been a health update yesterday.
Yeah. So, as I always say, check the health update. Paddy Dangerfield's the one to have a little look at because
it's been guaranteed, right?
Is it guaranteed? Wow. Okay. I love that because in my mind, I almost had just thought, okay, well, he'll miss and there'll be some utilisation of the bye as well and then miss multiple and it's fine, extend.
Yeah.
I was very pleasantly surprised to hear that. I thought it was a test, but...
Oh, maybe it's a test. Sorry, I don't know anything other than listening to... I thought in Scotty's presser he said, well, Danger will come in next week.
Okay.
So
Jakey's nodding. You're saying it. I'll believe it. Check the health update because I haven't fully... check that one.
Yeah.
The Geelong VFL unfortunately did lose to Williamstown by 26 points, but the good news was Cam Guthrie and Jack Martin had more game time and the best words, got through.
Got through.
Which is fantastic.
Well, I know the boys, they've lost, I think, a few on the trot now, but it's our timetables sort of mean that lots of our AFLW girls and cross paths with VFL in the recovery centre, and they're on it. They
locked on.
They're locked in. I think they feel this is a winnable game this week. So
great.
I expect big things.
Pat Retchko kicked 2 goals, had 21 touches. Good signs for him. Elite runner, I think he is, isn't he? Yeah, so that's exciting. We love to hear that. You mentioned this week, it's Geelong versus the Gold Coast Suns. No curtain raiser in the end. All right, so it is Sunday.
Yeah, just footy every day, guys.
Yep, perfect. What a weekend. Love
What a
that.
weekend.
Best way to spend the long weekend. The VFLW lost to Darebin by 25 points. Your old mob, Meg.
My old mob.
Blame you.
Doing all right, the independent club.
Yes, and a bye this week for the VFLW, and then the following week, North versus Geelong on Saturday, June 14th at Melbourne Avalon Oval, 2:45 p.m. is the next time the girls will run around there.
It always sounds Melbourne Avalon Oval. I always think must be windy. There's something about the Avalon of it all. Anyway.
Sorry. I think
It's
amazingly
riveting stuff today on the
I think
podcast.
amazingly, the VFL game at Williamstown for the first time in forever, there wasn't much wind at Williamstown Oval, which is a true miracle.
I was having this conversation in the sauna as well, and be like, "What?" I mean, you'd have to think about it before playing for the club. Honestly, the wind is out of control there.
Got to enjoy the playing in the wind, but so keep an eye on all of that. The VFL. We've worked it out when they're playing. We're set. While you're doing all that, though, make sure you've got your ticket to this Saturday's top 4 shaping game as the Cats host the Gold Coast Suns in what will be an absolute ripper. Head to the membership site to access 50% off reserve seats in the Joel Selwood stand.
Also, everyone, with the AFLW fixture now out, which we were absolutely stoked to hear there, Lingy. Make sure you've got your AFLW memberships for season 2025. AFL members add-ons start at $25. So I'm just going to say, no excuses.
No excuses.
Get on there.
Well, I'm going to hold the question because we a little bit later on, segment 3, we've got some fan questions.
Yep.
Relates to AFLW. I want to ask you about the fixture then if we can, but I'm glad you alluded to it nicely there. Let's take a quick break because David Williams, the club psychologist, is just walking in the room. He's going to join us next. Winning a three-peat isn't easy, but at GMHBA Health Insurance, that's exactly what we've done. By winning the 2024 CanStar Outstanding Value Hospital Cover in Victoria 3 years running.
GMHBA have been caring for the Geelong community since 1934 and are proud supporters of the mighty Geelong Cats. Join at gmhba.com.au.
Welcome back to The Final Bell. Great to have you with us. We are proudly presented by GMHBA. And as promised, we're going to get a little bit of a different look behind the scenes here at the Geelong Cats. So David Williams, the club psychologist, has been kind enough to join us. Dave, thanks so much, first of all, for joining us. Can I dive straight in? The role of the psychologist here at the Cats, at any AFL club, has no doubt changed so much over time. I go way back to the start of my playing career. If a player went to see a psychologist, it was like, oh, what's wrong with that guy? Can you just tell us now, what's the modern club psychologist? What's the role? What's the interaction like?
Yeah, great point, Lingy, and it's been. Yeah, I'll get used to this eventually. It's been a really big shift, even in my now 11 years in the game, where it started to where it is now, and how the role is used has shifted so dramatically, and even with the inclusion of the W space now has added to that and to the way that you have to be able to work to make sure that you can have a program that caters for individual needs. And at the start of that journey, to your point, the shift was moving from, hey, this is someone that you can go and see when things are broken, to moving to how do we actually tap into capacity and help people go better. And so really the role for the club psychologist now is to be able to be there for when the person needs them and in which way they need them. So that means if you're already going well, how do we go from going well to going better? And if you are struggling, how do we get you back to the best level of your functioning? So it's really being able to cater for the person and what their needs are. And to do that within an organisation, it means you actually have to work with the group as well as the individuals. So it's much more proactive now rather than reactive.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, mate. We sort of spoke there mainly about, I imagine, a one-to-one relationship with the playing group, and I know your door is always open for us to come to you in that sense, but you no doubt also have responsibilities that include a team mentality and our philosophies as an organisation. What's your role in sort of forwarding how we, in inverted commas, go about it down here at the Cats?
Yeah, so I've been really lucky because we essentially get to tap onto and we get to sit next to one of the greats in the men's side of the program, and now we've got one of the greats in our W side of the program. it's really about co-design. So it's how do we actually take the football expertise and the personal expertise of our people, and how do we get everyone to work together? So in some ways, it's a little bit like being an orchestra conductor. So how do we make sure everybody's playing in harmony? And so my role in that is to use my ears and mouth ratio proportionately. So I want to listen twice as much as I talk. But that talking part is to say, how do we start with the end in mind and work out what are we looking for and what's the best path to get there? So it's never really about me. And I think I was saying to you girls when we spoke 2 weeks ago, the best psychology program has multiple other people that are helping to deliver aspects of that. So for us, that includes our coaches, our leaders, even our sports science staff and our player development staff. And I'm really lucky within the men's side of it. I've got Mark Worthington, Shannon Burns, and now Renee Gehring on the W side. They are the amplifiers to the program. They're also some of your best radars to work out what are we hearing that feels cultural, what are we focusing on that feels individual, and what actually feels like a collective us. So, my role really is to listen to that and work out what's the best way to solve some of those issues, or to go after stuff that's not an issue, but it's an opportunity. And so, I'm often working up, down, and sideways. So it's cultural as well as performance as well as health.
Do you have a role mid-game, game day, as well as midweek and during the week, and with that bigger approach, obviously, pushing it out to the whole season and everything you're talking about? Is it game day as well?
Yeah, we do, and ours is really targeted, our approach there. So the game day part is based on individual needs, and so it'll shift and move a little bit. So sometimes for some of our players, there might be stuff that we focus on that we want to have a little pre-game focus. Now that might be captain's run, day before. Game day, it might be actually working in with coaches to make sure the messages that we wanted to send are actually being sent down. So the role for a good psychologist, in my view, is to be felt but not seen. And so often I'll be in the back of a coach's box, really more listening to make sure that the messaging we're trying to get across is landing. So you're reinforcing that with players. And so that's, for my role, it starts targeted with certain individuals who have requested that. And it's certainly about recognising the players have capacity. They don't need me on game day, but if I can help do things that amplify what they're looking to do, that's what we do. So it's all set up well and truly before the season even starts.
In amongst, no doubt, lots of different personalities and preparations and egos and everything on game day. The ones who want to be up and about and flying around and buzzing around, the others who want to be chilled. Is there ever an intervention part of your role on game day where you see somebody who should, or optimum is to prepare a certain way, but maybe they've just shifted outside their optimum?
Yeah, and there is, and more if they've requested it. So I'm always mindful that the athlete is the master of their space, and so it's not for me to come in and sprinkle magic stuff on them necessarily. It's actually to come in and work from an evidence base to say, what is it that we've worked on that you're going after, and have you requested for me to give you something? So, for example, with some of our guys, we'll have a specific pre-game focus, so a real mental performance plan, if you will. And what they've asked is at half-time, they'll come in and say, this is where I notice where my mind's going. How do I reset and refocus? And we might do something that's very brief just to get them ready for the meeting with their coaches, which is imperative. So the coaches will do that guiding, and I'm just helping them be present for what they need to be ready for, and reminding them of what they're going after, which is really co-designed with their coaches. So I do have a few of our male players that we'll do that for, but mostly the work is a little bit like the philosophy of the great basketball coach John Wooden, to do as much work as possible in the lead-up to allow the experts to get out there uninhibited and do what they do.
Gosh, so many questions for you, Dave. So good. You're a ball. I'm interested, show my age and challenges I've faced, but the generational stuff. What's your observation? Because I'm sure many of our listeners observe it in their own jobs, the difference in how people who are, say, millennials like me, in their 30s are different and have had a different experience of society and interaction and connection as the 18 to 23-year-olds of today. How do you, is there a gap to be bridged? Is there ways to treat people differently, or are you getting, obviously within those generations, people are unique anyway?
I think so. I think it's a really good point, Meg, because what I've noticed, certainly as I now move into advanced years, if you will, not just in the system but in life, is that movie references start to change. So
Oh,
things
my
that you
goodness.
could get away with early on, people look at you now and say, what? For example, in our men's academy group at one stage, and I think it might have been Burnsy, and he'd mentioned a band, and I forget the band that he mentioned exactly, and one of the boys put their hand up and said, who are they? Is that a wrestling group? And we knew immediately to say, right, we have got
You're like, no, that's
generational
you too.
differences. Yeah. So for me, I think where this generation's been really helpful to blend with other generations is a lot of that destigmatisation stuff we talked about before. There's less of that to do because there's a comfort to say, I want to come forward and I want to chat. Within that, I think there's grains of wisdom that come down the chain from every generation. So it's not that the way that it was before is better than the way it is now, but the challenges that were faced then, we worked out solutions then for that challenge. The challenges of the present day just change a little bit. So it's kind of like, how do we take those grains and add it to your toolbox? And then equally, how do we take this freshness and this vibrancy and this ability to change perspective and look at how that may be valuable for other people that are in different stages of their career? So I think part of what's been really enjoyable for us is the openness of our coaches to say, how do we draw on the wisdom of our older players, our senior players, and how do we actually tap into the youthful exuberance that's coming up so that we can get this really nice blend of different perspectives. But there's certainly different challenges in it. One of them is just their technical capability online. Remember when we started, I don't know if it was like that for you, Lingy, but just how to start a meeting without being on mute. And just the ability to be on Teams and on Zoom and in Teamworks and navigate multiple platforms to say, well, we'd have to spend less effort there. But in some ways too, we're also looking at how do we help them see that it's okay for you to experience setback and not label everything as a mental health condition.
Totally, yeah.
So you can experience stress and that doesn't mean you have an anxiety disorder. You can have performance anxiety and that also doesn't mean you have an anxiety disorder. But it's helping them understand what are you experiencing, what's normal for our environment, and how do we use it and still flourish. And so that's a really nice part of the role is you get to help people understand their experience, normalise it, and work with it.
Yeah, speaking of that environment piece, the challenge then is also the nature of the environment that we're in. It is a high-performance environment.
Correct.
So how do you sort of marry up that idea of meeting people where they're at and I don't know, all the things that you do in your profession, while the realities of this environment is it's going to be incredibly challenging at times and you have to have certain characteristics that help you to succeed in it.
100%. Probably a little story that comes to mind. I remember being asked to present an AFL Players Association conference, and we're in the audience. There's a whole bunch of academics and people that are from non-football backgrounds there, and they're curious about what happens inside the inner sanctum, as everyone should be. And they wanted to know, like, what's the difference with working with athletes and general public? And I said, well, one thing, everybody is human. We have super abilities, but not superhumans. We've got super great people, but they still feel things the way that everyone else feels things. They have performance capabilities that are different. So the way that I thought to translate it off the cuff was I said, how about this? I said, let's think of it this way. I said, what do your parents do for work? Sort of get a little bit of chatter going in the audience. And one of the people in there said something like an executive assistant for a boss. And I said, well, imagine this, right? Imagine your mum goes to work tomorrow and there's an analyst looking over her shoulder to look at typing technique and to look at spelling errors. And then if you get too many spelling errors, there's actually going to be a discussion at match committee about that. There will also be a show during the week for the public to talk about these emails that have come out. And I said, and the next time you go to send the email, there's going to be 80,000 people watching, and there'll be people talking about whether you should be contracted to do any more of these emails or answer these calls in the future. I said, would it change the way that you feel when you're writing the email? I said, because the job for us essentially is to go, we're not going to take the stress and the pressure out of the game. We want to learn to invite it, work with it, and flourish in spite of it. So we're bringing you up to the line, this adaptability piece. And that was the easiest way I could think to describe it for people to say, what you're watching, it's not just a game, it's a performance challenge that happens to be a game, and there's brilliant stuff that comes with it, but it's a bar that's not going to get lower, we have to get higher.
Love that. I love all of that sort of, that type of talk and that type of learning to cope with an environment that is really uncomfortable at times. One more if you could, and this relates specifically, we're obviously recording this on a Wednesday. The Cats have just beaten the West Coast Eagles, about to play the Gold Coast Suns.
Yep.
Now, as far as ladder positions go, we certainly never get ahead of ourselves in this great game of AFL football, but ladder positions wise, two very different challenges.
Yes.
You've got the Eagles sitting down the bottom, probably one the outside world would expect the Cats to win, versus the Gold Coast Suns, top four clash, exciting, huge build-up. Just the different mindsets that the player, and you work with the players on, for a game like the one we've just seen against the West Coast Eagles, where external expectations say Cats win.
Yes.
But they've still got, as players, got to front up, perform against high-quality athletes, high-quality players from the West Coast Eagles and make sure they get the job done.
Yeah, it's a great point, Lingy, because, and it's not telling either of you two things you don't know because you're living it, but it's how do we actually instill in our group that we're not playing against ladder positions, we're playing the game on its merits. And so it's being respectful of your opponent to say they are capable. When the game is on their mode and in their terms, they're going to get a look and it's going to present a challenge that you have to answer. So a lot of the work that we're doing, and this is coming back to the collective, I guess, of working with the coaches and working with the players individually, proactively, is to say, well, actually, we're not playing against ladder positions, but we're trying to work out how do we get the game on our terms. And you'll hear wonderful coaches like Scotty talks about this so much more articulately than I could. But he'll talk about going, we're looking to get the game on our terms and how do we focus on what are the ingredients that we need to make that happen. And with in-game, I often talk to our guys about performance is not linear. It doesn't just go like this, unfortunately. Yep. So it's being ready to respond to the changes in frequency. And so when we need to make a change, knowing that we can, and we don't have to panic because, that team's 18th on the ladder. So no, they're 18th on the ladder, but this is the English Premier League of Australian football. We have great players and you're going to play against them everywhere and you give them a look and they're going to get confident. And so we have to be able to arrest momentum and get it back. So that's one of the things that I took out of watching the boys on the weekend was to say, it's okay to be challenged. It's how you meet the challenge and overcome it. Sometimes that's going to be worth its weight in gold from a confidence point of view as the season progresses.
Brilliant. No, thank you so much for sharing all that. I could ask another 10 questions. I'm sure you the same, Meg. We'll have to cut it there, but thank you so much for sharing that insight. And I know even with me being a dad of boys and coaching some junior teams, a couple of the messages there that you're talking about resonate not just at the top level, but right down through sport and just the ability to help kids and people on their journey as well. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks so much, Lingy, and thanks, Meg. And I'll and get out of the way and let you guys keep doing the great work that you're doing. I look forward to going back to being a listener. Thanks for having us.
On you, Willow.
Winning a three-peat isn't easy, but at GMHBA Health Insurance, that's exactly what we've done. By winning the 2024 CanStar Outstanding Value Hospital Cover in Victoria 3 years running.
GMHBA have been caring for the Geelong community since 1934 and are proud supporters of the mighty Geelong Cats. Join at gmhba.com.au.
Welcome back to the Final Bell. Big thanks to GMHBA for helping us bring this to you every single week. Hey, before we get to the fan questions, Meg, just a quick chat there with David Williams, who was the club psychologist. I had another 100 questions. I was busy making mental notes about personal stuff. And junior coaching and everything.
You're going to sit the team down this week and say, listen to this, guys. No, I think listeners will be following that interview thinking, that's how they do it.
Yeah.
He's much to credit. Dave, how would I say that? What am I trying to say? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think
no, you do.
I love the line when he said it's now such a proactive approach to it. It's how you can turn. I think one of his first lines was how we can turn someone who's going well into helping them go even better. And great that sort of performance, the comfort, if that want of a better word there, that they need to find within a really super uncomfortable environment and a stressful environment and a tough environment, and understanding that. You got to build resilience to that, coping mechanism. Loved it.
Yeah, his performance analogy was great. We didn't ask him about Burnsy. That's probably one thing. He mentioned the fact that he works closely with him, and I don't know if listeners of the pod can imagine that. But no, they do great work.
I reckon you need to do a bit of work with Shannon Burns before he does the runner roll and has him primed and ready to go. Yeah. He would do some great things. But no, love that chat. Fantastic. Really appreciate him coming along. Let's get to some questions, Meg.
Let's do it.
If we could. Levi says, you're going to have a better feel on this than I am. Who is the dad of the group and who is the cool uncle of the group?
Okay. I assume we're talking the men's group.
Yes. Let's start with that.
I'll go cool uncle first. I think has to be Mark Blitzarf's.
I
think he's definitely cool uncle.
Yep. He's fun, isn't he?
He's fun.
He's the one who leads a couple of the nephews and nieces astray. Totally. It's like, come on, it's all right.
But also how to be a great person, but also have fun along the way. Dad, I'm going to say, I mean, you want to say the skipper. Pat gives Dad energy. Perhaps that's outfit choice. You know, he cops a bit of feedback on that front. But maybe Mitch. I would say maybe Mitch.
Yeah.
Has he got the most kids in the group? Maybe that's why I'm saying that. But
4?
He's got 4.
It would be the most.
Yeah, I reckon those are my Mitch and Blitz.
Mitch and
what
Blitz.
do you reckon?
Yep, I like that. What about in the W group?
Dad or Mum and Auntie? Well, traditionally everyone would have to say Renee Gehring, who's come back as our PDM. Yeah. She's mum of the group. We've got a soon-to-be mum. We've got another existing mum in Kate Darby. So we've got plenty of nominations.
I want to know who the fun auntie is. Like the one who's like the 17-year-old niece or nephew's like, nah, it's all right. I'll take you out. Come on, we're going to this club. We're heading out.
Gosh. No, I'll say Claudia Gunjaka is a pretty good mum. I'm still on the mums. So who's the fun auntie? Probably, I'll say Amy McDonald.
Okay.
Yeah, Amy McDonald. She's pretty good for a hosting of it'll be at her place for a get together. I'll say Amy.
Which
McDonald.
one do you slant more towards?
What do you think?
I'm going to let you answer that.
I'll cook them a roast meal.
Beautiful.
So
you're more the
grandmum.
The nana of the.
Yeah, has that been levelled at me before? It has.
Anyway. Nice little insight. We might get Willow back in and have a.
Yeah, but then I'm like, guys. Training completion, strength, on-field dominance.
There it is.
Grandma, give me a spell.
The competitive part just came out. Fantastic. I love seeing that. Bunks has this one. Why didn't Geelong have a banner? So I think Bunks must be talking about from the
debunk the rumours.
The Perth game, the West Coast Eagles game. We do have an answer. Because there weren't enough cheer squad members who were able to fly over, so we had a big guard of honour with some Perth-based fans. And just so everyone knows, our incredible cheer squad members, our brilliant, brilliant people, they pay their own way to get to games right across Australia. So as you could imagine, driving is not a great option to go to Perth and flying is ridiculously expensive right now. So unfortunately, there weren't enough people who knew how to make a banner and put it all together.
I mean, it's an especially good one this week, I'd say.
It certainly will be. It certainly will be. We love our cheer squad. They do a wonderful job.
And I will say, actually, another thing. I was in a discussion recently, and the question was around why aren't we able to turn the banner? I know fans like to see both sides of it. I know that's an issue, but that is very strictly dictated by broadcast times and on-field OH&S, I believe, as well. So if anyone was wondering that, then that's what it is.
The sticks are the big poles are pegged into the ground, or not pegged in. They've got the spike on the bottom.
Yeah, it's all it's hard.
Okay, I'm going to let you handle this one as well. This one's from Melly. How do you actually pronounce Max's surname? We are talking about number 9 for the Cats.
Is Melly going to forward this to all commentators everywhere? We hope. It's Holmes.
Holmes.
Take the L out. The L is silent.
Not Holmes.
No.
As
Max
we
Holmes.
sometimes hear, it's Holmes. Do you know, it is so funny that I have even found myself doubting myself.
Yes.
Because I know that it's Holmes. I've asked Max about it. I've done due diligence. I've asked people around the club, even if Max was telling me the wrong thing, and it's Holmes. And then I hear it and I'm like, oh God, I'm unprofessional.
No.
I'm saying the wrong thing, even though I know I'm not.
And Closey.
Thank you.
Closey for Ted.
Thank you. Thank you. What's Mark Blitzar's?
And Ted's brother, who will also be here this week.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, good call. All right, Mally, hopefully that's answered it. Once again, it is Max
Holmes.
Thank you. Sean has this one. Meg, who should Cats fans get excited about for the AFLW season? You can answer that as well as my add-on question to Sean's. The fixture,
Yes.
happy, angry, in between.
Always happy to get one. And I actually thought Sean's question was, should Cats fans get excited? And I was like,
hell yeah.
Yeah, Sean. No, we're stoked. I actually think some of the we'll play 6 games here at GMHBA Stadium for the first time because we have a 12-game season. Lots of those are afternoon, family-friendly, so get excited and get here. That would be fantastic. The fixture's great. We go to Adelaide twice. I love an Adelaide trip. So I was stoked with that. One little Perth trip. We play North again, round 1. We tend to do that quite often. They're obviously, this time around, they're the reigning premiers and we inch closer every year. We drew last year. But they're a great challenge.
Time to get them this year.
Time to get them this year.
And it's inching ever so slightly more in line with...
It is. We're 2 weeks earlier this year, so we do have some more overlap.
Which I think is a great thing.
I think it's a great thing too. Lingy thinks it should be a winter sport, which I agree.
Well,
yeah, I agree.
I think it should be in their traditional footy season.
Yeah.
And I think it would be incredibly well received to align, but that's just my opinion.
But I haven't answered Sean's question. So Sean, I'm going to give you obviously the pressure of this question every year. I don't want to say the same people every year, but I will give one Michaela Bowen a shout out. Fans will know that she's come from West Coast. This might be her 3rd or 4th season at the Cats. Producer Jake knows, maybe 4th. She's played that wing role because her aerobic capacity and running power is fantastic, but she's moved into the sort of to use that in a high forward role and increase her contest work as well. She's dangerous in the as a defender. I don't often have to deal with her one-on-one, but she's mowed me down, that's for sure. So I think just having different looks in the forward line, like it kind of we were saying, mate, you need to just watch Jamie Elliott tapes at the moment. But that and she said or Ollie Dempsey. So I think she's got a good jump on her. So in the air and on the ground, I think I'm excited about her season in different forward capacities. So
excellent.
We'll go with Michaela Bowen.
Mark that one down, Sean. Pumped about the fixture. Michaela Bowen.
Yeah.
Very, very exciting stuff. All right, Meg, let's move into this week's game. Obviously, Saturday afternoon, 4:15 p.m. here at GMHBA Stadium against the Gold Coast Suns, who are playing really good footy and at this midway point of the season are looking like they'll be involved in their first finals campaign. So a really good quality team at the moment. The Cats wanting to continue with important wins, home game wins.
Yeah.
Early on, how are you seeing it?
I'm feeling like I've watched Gold Coast. I was sort of watching them closely when they were dominating in Darwin, and I haven't watched them the last couple of weeks quite as closely. But their midfield depth is extreme, right?
It's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, and all of a sudden, those people who, to my mind, were draftees last year, are now really key mids, and they're not. They're in their 4th, 5th year, whatever. Anderson, Rowell, incredible players, and really in the top. Name the number 5, 10 of the competition. So no doubt they'll be a threat. What have you got? Put your general commentator hat on. How do you rate the Gold Coast Suns?
I rate them really highly. So this is a different iteration of the Gold Coast Suns for me. One that's granted, as in their club's history, their short history has teased at times and then just fallen away a little bit. This seems really sustainable. The quality and the depth that you mentioned of their midfield, but they're running half backs.
Rioli and Noble, I should have mentioned those guys. As every week, our high half forwards will have a job on their hands.
Yeah, they really will. And their forward line obviously is multidimensional. Now, the Freo kept them under control well and truly. I thought Freo were really impressive with the way they played against them last week, and the fact that the Suns only scored 64 points think it's a rarity. It feels like a rarity for me because I rate that forward line and the ball movement stuff they do really highly. So obviously the Geelong coaches, Chris Scott and the team, they know a hell of a lot more than I do, would probably have taken elements out of the Dockers game from the weekend to just see, okay, how do we blunt a bit of that midfield attack? How do we blunt a bit of that ball movement and some of the transition into the Suns forward line and flip it back the other way? There'll be a few lessons from it, but I think the Suns will also then throw a few different things back at the Cats that they will have learnt from last week's game.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm looking forward to it. I think as you've touched on with Dave, the change in mentality from a should win to a this is a real challenge, a team's trying to establish itself, will be an interesting one to observe.
And maybe we are diving deep into the psychology side of it. I think a really good quality start against the Suns can just have the Suns back on their heels a little bit, and coming off last week and playing down here, just if you can just set them back a bit, hopefully they might think, oh, gee, it's a long way back. Cats are on this. This is a tough one, as opposed to those confidence boosters that one or two teams feel good coming here.
Yeah,
we know that.
Well, I was trying to think
when
did they last come? It's been a little while. Oh, yeah, right.
21 was it?
Well, I was actually just hoping for a really cold day, and it has been cold in Geelong this week. I think that's only going to work in our favour.
Okay. Well, do you want me to look at the weather for you?
Yeah.
This is for Saturday. 75% chance of rain with a high of 15. Lovely day.
Lovely, gorgeous. Please do come to Geelong.
Yes, absolutely. No, it'll be a brilliant game of footy. We will watch and confirm, check the health update for Paddy, but if Paddy comes in, obviously that's a huge in as well. On a day like that where he's a contestable beast and a great finisher, it sets up as a great one. So I can't wait next week, you and I, Meg, when we get back together.
We'll be on
to talk about that one. Will we have a Meg's memo next week?
I reckon live at GMHBA is always more tempting
They're
than
the ones,
home alone on my couch.
It's the live inside the ground, the ones I think the listeners love the
they
most.
like the barracking. Did we get feedback on my? No. Yeah, loved it. Jake, great for me.
And I like the sort of 7 or 8 seconds at different parts of the game.
Okay,
If there's a little bit where it shifts away from us for a bit, just to hear the grumpy captain come out. Fix these things up. Meg, as always, great to catch up with you.
You too, Liam.
We will be back next week talking all things Cats versus Suns, hopefully talking about a big win. But enjoy the week, enjoy the footy.
You too.